Um, I honestly, like many days covering the Trump's Washington, Bakari, don't exactly know where to start. But I think the economy, quite frankly, a big picture is where we should be. And he's saying there that more definitively answering the question about a recession or lack thereof. But I think we can put up on the screen how the stock market has been viewing today. I mean, it's in better shape right now than it was earlier today, closing down 478 points. But this is the second day in a row of a sharp nosedive for the economy. If you were a Democrat watching this, you're thinking what?
I mean, so the first thing is, I mean, you can use Donald Trump's own words against him, in which he said that if the stock market, we lose 1,000 points in 2 days, then the president should be impeached. He accused Joe Biden of being asleep when we had steep stock market drops before. But I think even more damning for Republicans today, and they need to get Donald Trump out of this if they want to have some success. You have Donald Trump up here doing a infomercial, trying to raise money and save a company for the richest man in the world, while people's 401ks are crashing before their eyes. The imagery of Elon Musk and Donald Trump standing on this TV screen together. By the way, can we get some green or something over there? I don't want people to think I'm responsible for the breaking news and the Dow dropping. But the fact is, you have that up there consistently, and that imagery for Democrats. I mean, if the leadership wants to be out there, this is the time to do the counter programming from Washington, D.C. This is the time to do those press conferences and say, look, he's out there with Elon Musk trying to save his company while your portfolio, not only is he trying to fire you from the federal government and force you to take retirement, and you're watching your portfolio drop. Look at what's happening in real time.
Bill?
I think for 4 years we've seen politicians play the short game, right? Free money, free college education, wipe out student debt. This is the long game. We're not used to seeing someone play the long game. That's what we're seeing here. Someone who thinks that access to our economy is a privilege, not a right. Someone who thinks that we should use access to our economy as leverage for better deals for our country. Yeah, there's short-term pain. We're seeing it on the screen, and I promise you that Donald Trump sees those numbers too, and he knows that there's going to be a political price for that.
Well, to that point, let's watch exactly what Donald Trump said about the R word, recession, because a big part of where we are this week, yes, it's back and forth about tariffs, but it's also a lot about how he did or didn't answer the question that Maria Bartiromo put to him over the weekend when he refused to rule out a recession. So here's what he's saying today. Watch.
Specifically on the recession, do you think there will be a recession?
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom. But as I said, I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it is exactly what I'm doing, but the results are going to be 20 times greater.
Mr. President,
and remember, Trump is always right.
And what do you say to Americans?
If you look at what I've said over the last 10 years, Trump has been right all the time. This is the way to do it. We're going to make America great again. You know, to make it great, you have to have jobs, you have to have factories, you have to have. I look at some of the things that, like this last administration, he was the worst president in the history of our country. Nothing was happening. Nothing. He had no idea what was going on. Our country went to hell. And then to allow millions of people to come in that are prisoners and mental institution patients and all of the things, gang members, drug lords, we're searching them all down now, trying to get them out of our country. And we're going to do that. But on the financial end and the economic end, what we're doing is, to me, it's the most exciting. Our country will be greater than ever before, and it won't take too long.
Okay, so there was a lot there, Kristen, but the part that I want to focus in on is what he said at the very top, which was that he said, I don't see a recession happening, and then he pivoted to explain what he believes about tariffs. My question is, why couldn't he say that on Sunday to Maria Bartiromo?
I think what Donald Trump believes is that this short-term problem that he's clearly facing with the economy looking the way it does is going to ultimately pay off because he believes over the long term, those things he just talked about, we're going to see these factories come back, et cetera, that's all going to come to fruition. The problem he's going to face is that in politics, the reason why everybody focuses on the short term is because we have elections every 2 years for Congress. And saying, sure, you're going to feel short-term pain now, but there's a factory town that's going to get revitalized 5-10 years down the road, that's a politically tough argument to make. And eventually voters go, okay, I feel the pain. Where's the payoff? He's going to start getting asked that by voters pretty soon.
And Julia, I suppose the fact that, he keeps joking about running for election for a third term, but he is, per our Constitution, a lame duck, really, right? Like, he is not going to be the one that's going to pay the price here. It's going to be members of Congress. They seem to still be willing to go along with him on all of this, despite this short-term pain that they will likely pay the price for.
Well, it's interesting that so far he hasn't even used Congress, right, in the first couple of months since coming to power. But I do think that he has so consolidated control of the GOP, right, that, you know, one of the very few members of Congress who's stepping up against him, the congressman from Kentucky, he's already threatening a primary challenge for. That people are just scared now, having gone through 8 years of this, including the last 4 years during the Biden administration, where he was in effect a shadow president, exercising control over Republicans in Congress from Mar-a-Lago, telling them what to vote on, what to not vote on. I think they've learned the hard way that if you go against Donald Trump, you get primaried, you lose political power. So I think they're ironically too scared to fight back against him, even if they end up paying, like you said, at the polls in 2 years.
Bill, I take your point about how if, in fact, there was a consistent tariff policy, I mean, certainly there are Democrats out there, Bakari, who have argued that this should be a tool in the toolbox, right? However, the president, I mean, just today went back and forth and back again with tariffs on Canada, and that unpredictability. I mean, I was talking to Larry Summers yesterday about this, really more than anything, right? If you have a consistent tariff policy, fine. What the market is having a big problem with is the back and forth and back and forth. How do you see that as being helpful, especially when it has to do with our neighbor?
It's easy to have a simple explanation to say Trump did that when you put the stock market numbers on the screen. There's kind of chaos going on Capitol Hill right now, right? You're not going to have a federal budget, right? Debt ceiling, government shutdown. In terms of what makes an economy move, the mechanics of an economy, that matters a little more than like the price of a piece of wood from Canada, candidly.
Yeah, that's ironic. And I wanted to just pinpoint the statement there, because what we have to realize is that that budget shutdown, that gridlock that you're seeing here, the fact that Trump is being inconsistent at best, those are all Republicans. Like, Republicans have the White House, Republicans have the United States Senate, and Republicans have the United States House of Representatives. And so I agree with Bill wholeheartedly that the ineptitude that you see up here is all in their lap. And can we please stop calling it tariffs? I mean, I know that's what we're saying as an instrument of economic policy, but at the end of the day, they're taxes on American people. I mean, the people who are feeling the brunt of tariffs, that is a tax, period, point blank, period. And by going into a tax war or trade war with our neighbors, I mean, we are having a new trade war with Canada. No one would have ever guessed that before. And I don't even know why we wanted to be a 51st state when there was so much fentanyl up there. That's what we were told months ago.
Republicans do not want it to be a 51st state because it's effectively like adding another California to the United States. It's politically progressive, 40 million people.
We still have Puerto Rico,
Mr. President.
We still got some other stuff to do before we get there, okay?
Well, and to Bakari's point, this is the same kind of logic you heard from Democrats when Biden was in power, right? And inflation was high. People said, well, that's not the president's fault. The economy is a very complex picture. It's not just the president setting policy. All of a sudden, Donald Trump is in office, and we hear a very different tune about how complex the economy is and how Donald Trump has absolutely nothing to do with tanking the stock market and stripping tens of thousands of dollars off regular people's 401ks.
This need not be an either or. Both things can be true at the same time. Collected tariffs doubled during Trump's first term. The S&P went up 67% during his first term. Both things can happen at the same time.
But weren't those tariffs more consistent? I mean, and Joe Biden, I think we should say, Biden left some of those tariffs in place, right? Again, this is not something that, I mean, Democrats historically have been more protectionist in many ways, but it's the inconsistency.
Perhaps. I mean, there was inconsistency in the first term, too.
Well, and I would also argue that a desire for consistency is actually part of why Donald Trump got elected, that there was a sense that with the Biden administration, that if there were questions about who's minding the store, that there was a sense of chaos and unpredictability. And weirdly, Donald Trump, the self-described wrecking ball, was the one who I think some voters said maybe he'll bring back some stability. And right now, this tension between Donald Trump, the wrecking ball, Donald Trump, the strong man.
There's also some, what we saw today from Donald Trump in the Elon Musk infomercial is actually some of the appeal of Donald Trump that we didn't have from Joe Biden. And so, yeah, when people castigate the policy of Joe Biden, I mean, they're not talking about the successes of the Inflation Reduction Act, infrastructure bill, et cetera, or as you were talking about it earlier, the CHIPS Act, et cetera. What they wanted was this, where you could see him, touch him, and he could just talk off the cuff.
Fair enough. And hawk Teslas on the, on the South Lawn. All right.